A high-stakes redistricting fight with national attention has come to an end here in South Carolina. State senators adjourned Governor Henry McMaster's special session this afternoon without making any changes to congressional maps. The issue has been watched closely across the country, but today, with record early voting underway, lawmakers decided to step back. As State House reporter Stephen Biddix has been tracking this for weeks and explains how it all unraveled.
We were expecting a long night here at the State House, but lawmakers have adjourned Governor Henry McMaster's special called session for redistricting and gone home. The reason? They say it's too late as early voters flooded the polls, setting new records.
There never was enough time.
Senators spent about 3 hours at the State House as support started to dry up. Republicans who once backed redistricting began switching sides as record-setting early vote totals rolled in. Senator Richard Cash, one of the Senate's most conservative Republicans, became the first to publicly flip.
South Carolina citizens are going to the polls today. And neither my conscience nor my common sense will allow me to stop an election that is already underway.
Moments later, Senator Tom Davis proposed to continue the bill to next session, effectively killing it.
That it's rife with errors. It's rife with errors. Not only are precincts split, you've got precincts on this map that don't exist.
After the key vote, Democrats thanked voters for the record turnout and proving a point that this was not the right way to go about the redistricting process.
Today, South Carolina stood up. South Carolina stood up to outsiders, to Washington, D.C. And we reinsured that our state process is our state process, and nobody's going to come in and bully us.
Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey, who's been against the process since the beginning, said the record turnout played a part in changing other Republicans' minds.
I don't think that from the Republican senators' perspective it was a rebuke to President Trump at all. I mean, I think we're all very supportive. This happened way late in the game.
With the redistricting battle now over, lawmakers can turn their attention to other unresolved issues still left from the legislative session, like finishing the state budget, hemp regulation, and strengthening the state's DUI laws. Reporting at the State House, I'm Stephen Biddix.
And within the last hour, Governor McMaster responding to lawmakers' decision to keep the map the same, saying in part, quote, President Trump needs a Republican Congress to continue pursuing conservative policies that make our nation stronger. I'm confident that one day South Carolina's congressional delegation will be completely Republican. I'm disappointed that the day has not yet come, end quote.